Welcome to SVG-TV News on Monday, July 24th, 2023. I am Rochelle Baptiste with the details. The SVG Med Services and the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, are advising residents and motorists in areas prone to flooding and landslides or near rivers and streams to exercise caution with a flood watch in effect for the islands. In its latest bulletin at 6 p.m., the SVG Med Services said cloudy to overcast skies, light to heavy showers, periods of light rain and isolated thunderstorms are anticipated this evening into Tuesday as a broad area of low pressure associated with a tropical wave affect the island chain. In addition, the Met Services said occasional gusty winds may accompany shower activity with rainfall accumulations of approximately 2 to 4 inches with isolated higher amounts in mountainous areas possible within the next 48 hours. According to the Met Services, as a result, the weather advisory that was already in effect for a low risk of flooding for St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been upgraded to a flash flood watch and will remain in effect until further notice. A flood watch is issued when conditions are favorable and there exists the possibility of flooding during the watch period. The Met Services says this flash flood watch may be upgraded to a warning if conditions warrant. In a telephone interview today with SVG-TV News, meteorologist Delsreed Neverson-Jack gave a synopsis of the weather conditions which will be affecting the island over the next 3 days.
Tropical disturbance will be affecting SVG, that is a tropical wave and its associated area of low pressure. We are forecasting showers, gusty winds near showers, and isolated thunderstorms during the passage of this wave, beginning to affect St. Vincent and the Grenadines from this afternoon. The Grenadines should have been experiencing some of these conditions earlier today, Monday, as instability ahead of the wave affects us. Now, seas should remain moderate in open waters, that is about 4 to 6 feet, but gusty winds are moving on the surface of the water, creating a bit of agitation. Now, while the rain is needed, there is a chance that flooding can take place in isolated areas. We are urging all residents and motorists to exercise caution. Model guidance is indicating roughly 1 to 3 inches of rainfall in a 3-day period.
Efforts must be made to ensure that the small minority of criminals in St. Vincent and the Grenadines never feel that they can create problems or fear in the society. This is according to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who was speaking today in an interview with the API Chevrolet Macmillan at the Mohammed V International Airport in Casablanca on his way to London as he and his delegation made their way back home on Wednesday. The Prime Minister was asked whether he was satisfied with the work of the police on the heels of the recent mass shooting in capital Kingston, in which 5 young men were killed. In his response, the Prime Minister noted that in dealing with citizen security, you are never always satisfied.
Because wherever there are gaps or limitations, you want to see them improved all the time. And whatever platform you have, you can always lift the game higher. The police, they're reasonably well resourced in numbers and equipment, and we have to add more as we're doing. A lot of training is going on for the police, and they have a lot of tried and tested technical approaches. Yesterday I spoke about some of them. I was on the radio, the Cecil Ryan program on WFM for about 45 minutes plus, and I laid out all of the concerns and the framework for a fight against crime and criminality, and for the maintenance of law and order, and touched all the questions with the judicial system, the police, the management of it, the investigation, all dimensions, and that to show that this matter involves everybody, parents, teachers, the communities,
Churches.
Churches, NGOs, sports, culture, you know, everything. All the state institutions. But I explain all the time that whatever the proximate or root causes of crime, criminal activities take place through a human agency, an individual. And there are a lot of people look to blame everybody else and everything else other than the individual who perpetrates the crime. And these crimes are crimes of choice. People choose to be engaged in criminal activity.
The Prime Minister, who serves as Minister of National Security, was also asked about the progress made thus far in terms of the investigation into the mass shooting.
The police had picked up some persons, and I believe that they will probably widen the net from my conversations with the Commissioner of Police. And technical assistance is being sought in terms of investigation and helping in that regard from the RSS, the Regional Security System, and also from the Canadian authorities. And the Commissioner is working with those agencies, those entities. I could give everybody the assurance that the government and I personally, we are resolute in fighting crime and the criminals. And we are not going to allow a handful of people to generate or engender fear in our country. This is why I'm so happy to see people going about their business in the country and say, listen, we have to fight back against these criminals.
On the destruction of the structures at the Brighton Salt Pond, which served to beautify the area, Prime Minister Gonzalez said the action taken by some persons with the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority was unauthorized and this has consequences, noting that the state cannot behave like a bandit and that the proprietor of Huffles Ranch, Elroy Otter, who built the structures, will be compensated and they will be built back better.
I will show those who want to conduct themselves in an unauthorized manner. That will not be allowed to stand. And the person who suffered, he must be recompensed. It's clear. And, but you know, I have watched over the last, I've said it yesterday on the radio. I'm not saying it definitively, I just raise it for the public's consideration. For a few weeks, last few weeks, there were some foreign operatives in politics on the ground.
In St. Vincent?
In St. Vincent. Not there on behalf of the ULP. Those whose behalf they came on and talk as to whom behalf they came on. But I watch the attacks on the Cubans. I watch what happened with Huffles. I watch this shooting and the way it was carried out. Each of those activities may have their own discrete origins. But I have enough of a knowledge of history in this Caribbean, how persons have sought to stoke confusion and to take advantage of whatever discrete difficulties may be in individual cases. I'm not speaking on it in a definitive manner. But when I see a number of things, I don't just say coincidence.
The SVG Coalition of Churches has expressed alarm by the recent escalation of violence here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and condemns all forms of violence. Member of the Churches Coalition, Pastor Stephen Oliver, urges Vincentians to restrain from vengeance and be peaceful people.
Take seriously what has happened there on Wednesday evening. 5 young men lost their lives, and so we extend our condolences to the bereaved families. We pray that God will comfort you in your time of grief. The church vehemently condemns all forms of violence. We encourage Vincentians to be peaceful. We wish to reiterate that as the church, we'll continue to promote and practice the biblical values of love, compassion, tolerance, restraint from vengeance, and forgiveness. Accepting and living by these godly values is a significant part of the solution to our crime problem. As a society, we must thoroughly evaluate the causes and collaborate to stem the tide of crime and violence. We urge our young men to lay down your weapons and abandon their destructive ways. Matthew 26 and verse 52, put away your sword, Jesus told him. Those who use the sword will die by the sword. As a nation, let us unite in prayer for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let us entreat the Lord to restore our country so that tranquility may reign again from shore to shore.
And Pastor Oliver said on Monday, July 31st, the SVG Coalition of Churches will host a day of prayer for the nation from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
And there are a number of denominations and organizations will be on, and we will be praying for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. All right, so a poster with the Zoom credentials will circulate at some point in time. And also we will be on Facebook. And so we would link with Zoom and Facebook, and so we all can be a part of this. We cannot take this lightly. We have to be in prayer for our nation. You know, we want to pray and continue doing it even after the 31st of July. Also, PAWI, we have on this Wednesday, we're going to have our 18-hour prayer, and that is from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, and we also will be praying. And you want to join in with us, it's the same. We have our Zoom credentials, it's out, and at the same time you can follow us on Facebook. Maybe you would not be able to come on the Zoom platform, but you can certainly follow us on Facebook. So this Wednesday, PAWI St. Vincent District, we'll be praying, and then on the 31st of July we'd have a number of churches throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not only PAWI churches, but other denominations. We're going to come together and we are going to lift up this nation before God. And I want us, put it on your prayer list. Let us don't, sometimes we can only pray at a certain time when when something happened in the country, but we want every day. Let us call St. Vincent and the Grenadines in our prayers that God will certainly, His peace will reign throughout this land.
Morocco is expected to set up a consulate here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is one of the agreements coming out of a bilateral meeting between Moroccan officials and Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, along with SVG's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kiesel Peters, during a visit to Morocco. In an interview with the APS Chevrolet Macmillan this morning at the Mohammed V International Airport in Casablanca, Prime Minister Gonsalves noted that he has been to Morocco 3 times on state business, and this is the most successful visit in terms of outcomes.
Anybody who sees the interaction between the Prime Minister and myself will see the warmth, that particular relationship, and with the Minister of Health, the Foreign Minister, the Institute in Casablanca, dealing with technical and vocational studies. And in all of these areas we are seeing important advances. There's a roadmap which we signed, and there will be a publication of that roadmap with resources, some money resources, but more important than money resources, the cooperation in the field of fertilizer. The amount of fertilizer we're going to get is more or less doubled than what existed before, and to the specification of our own soil. Training, scholarships, more scholarships, full scholarships this time, not the partial ones which we didn't take up because it wasn't economical for us to take them up. It's cheaper to send people to UWI on these rather than take partial scholarships here. In Morocco, there are now 20 full scholarships. That's in addition to all the other technical, vocational training opportunities, both here and people coming to St. Vincent from here to do training of trainers and the like. Matters touching and concerning health, the technology, security issues, and very importantly, the agreement between the foreign minister and myself that Morocco will set up a consulate in St. Vincent and Grenadines. In fact, they're supposed to be coming in October to begin the process of getting premises and shortly thereafter to put things in place. It should be very good.
They have another mission
they have in St. Lucia,
right?
In St. Lucia, but they're going to split. They're going to evolve the one in St. Vincent, hopefully into a full-fledged embassy, and to split the jurisdiction. I think they're recognizing the importance of the leadership in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Prime Minister Gonzalez said Morocco began an engagement with St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Eastern Caribbean in the late 20th century, but noting that nothing much has taken place. However, over the years, Morocco has been developing rapidly in a number of areas, and SVG stands to benefit from its linkage with the North African country. On the recent changes to the British government immigration regime, particularly against countries with a citizenship by investment program, including OICS countries, namely Dominica, Grenada, and St. Lucia, which will require their citizens to apply for a visa to travel to the UK. Prime Minister Gonzalez said he always knew the program was not sustainable and it will come to this.
Look, those who didn't see it and who wanted to base an economic strategy on that, like the opposition in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they now get their comeuppance. You see how mature judgment is brought to bear. When I say this thing is not sustainable, you can't base your economic development on this. You can't finance your budget on these kinds of monies. Apart from the principle which I've always stated and the practicality, purely, if even those who could have been satisfied, which they are not in my view, because the highest office in the land is that of citizen, not for sale. The passport is the outward sign of the inward grace of citizenship, not for sale. The question of people telling me that you can check to see who these individuals are and so on, and it says you don't have the machinery to do it. And the volume you have to do to make money off of it, you're going to run into difficulties. And this thing was just a matter of time. It's not only the European, not only the British. The European Union Commission had a meeting with those same governments.
Within the OICS?
Within the OICS. And they have told them, look, we have come to tell you that's not a matter of if. Not a matter of this thing may happen. This thing is happening. It's when we are going to bring down the hammer, and the hammer is coming down shortly. Because they're doing it with their own golden passport system within Europe. They bring down the hammer. European Parliament and also the European Commission bring down the hammer against them. And they're doing the same thing with these. They will remove the Schengen visa waiver for these countries. In fact, one Prime Minister who attended that meeting told me it's the end of the road.
Prime Minister Gonzalez said he has already indicated that during the transitional period, the friends of the affected OICS countries will have to assist to lessen the effects on these countries' economic activities.
There's not going to be a problem with the $2.70 to $1 US.
The exchange rate, EC.
The EC. You're not going to have an alteration of that. But if you have less US dollars coming in, you're going to have less EC dollars in circulation, which means it would be a dampening effect on economic activity. Yeah. And very specifically on the fiscal front, for those countries to pay the bills on a monthly basis. You remember last election in St. Vincent, the public sector union said, look at what St. Kitts is getting a 13-month salary, and the unions down there saying that they should get 14 months in the year, extra 2 months salary. I said, but y'all are not being realistic. I said, they're not being realistic when they're making those demands. I said, this thing is not sustainable. And the people of St. Vincent must realize this. Anytime anybody come with these kind of quick rich schemes,
If it sounds too good to be true.
you notice that I subject all the time to serious analysis and judgment, and I explain to the people. And so far on these matters, the people have accepted my judgment, on citizenship by investment, selling of passports, selling of citizenship, which goes under this euphemistic citizenship by investment, and accepted my position on Taiwan versus mainland China. As indeed they have accepted my position, my analysis, and what is required to be done on the issue of crime, on education, on health, on roads, on housing, on sports, on culture, on technical.
In more local news now, we hear that the Ministry of Tourism said it has seen an 81% increase in visitor arrivals to St. Vincent and Grenadines for the first 2 weeks of July in comparison to the same period last year. This is according to Minister of Tourism Carlos James during his address at the launch of the 2023 National Community Tourism Consultations last Thursday at the Methodist Church Hall. Minister James outlined how festive tourism or cultural tourism is very important to the country's economy.
Those arrivals coming directly through the Argyle International Airport. And what that is showing is also festival tourism and cultural tourism has an important role to play in moving people and bringing visitors to our islands. It is important that we look at that and also harnessing the best potential and avenue to exploit in our cultural and creative sectors. Our total arrivals by air for the month of June in comparison to this time last year, we're up 34%. Our total stayover for the Q1, first quarter of the year, last year 2022 in comparison to 2023, we're also up 44%. And our total stayover in comparison to 2019 in terms of our first quarter.
Minister James said that the increase in the progress shown in the tourism sector this year shows that the country is moving out of the COVID-19 pandemic and volcanic eruption periods back to where it was before these issues, adding that with the country is expected to see more increases in tourism as more facilities, particularly the hotels, are completed.
It shows that we are still gradually moving out of the COVID-19 pandemic lasted for a period. We're just short of down 7% of in comparison to our 2019 figures, which is post-pandemic. And this is no surprise. It is in keeping with what is happening globally. A number of countries globally, they are recovering, still not fully out of the downturn of the pandemic, but our numbers are showing that we are very much close to reaching to our figures where we were post-pandemic, and that augurs well for what we're seeing as the recovery and the boom that is expected within our tourism product. The total arrivals for Q1 in comparison to 2019, and I mentioned these stayover numbers specific to 2019, but this is the total arrivals for Q1. We are just over by 8.6%. We're now shooting out of the pandemic period. So now post-pandemic, we are now back to pre-pandemic numbers and moving beyond that in terms of our trajectory. And we haven't yet seen Sandals, we haven't yet seen the Marriott, we haven't yet seen Royal Mill, Holiday Inn Express, and a number of the major hotel chains that we're expecting to see welcome on island.
And Minister James said that it will require all stakeholders in the tourism sector to develop SVG's tourism product by ensuring that the best quality services are offered.
Quality of tourism supply components, the environment, health, security of our island, all of these things are married in a symmetry that must work. And when you put all of these things together, of course, with the partnerships with private sector investment, developing human resource capital, infrastructure and services, what we are developing is a unique homegrown product that we can package and we can offer to the rest of the world the most unique experience in the Caribbean, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So your voice is important. Your contribution to what we're building out, your input is quite critical to how we shape policy and how we develop our tourism product. We don't want to ever think that as policymakers we have all the ideas. We want to hear from you, the taxi operators, the crafts persons, the artisans, those involved in culture, in the gastronomy, in the hotel services sector and so on. We want to hear from you because it is your input that we value in crafting and building policy to develop our tourism product and to usher in the transformation of what we're building out.
Plans are already being put in place for the hosting of the hottest carnival in the Caribbean, Vinci Mas 2024. This is according to Chairman of the Carnival Development Corporation, Ricardo Adams, who was a panelist on SVG-TV's Viewpoint program last Sunday, providing a synopsis on Vinci Mas this year and expectations for the new year. Adams, along with Managing Director of Amgine Events, Kevin Robertson, and Secretary of the Carnival Bands Association, Lavon Cadogan, all agreed that despite some challenges, Vinci Mas 2023 was a major success.
Numbers that I saw, attendances in events, we do a lot of online ticket sales as well too. That's an integral part in our business. So we saw, like when tickets started, we saw numbers that were beating any numbers that we had before. And these were from overseas. So that automatically triggered to us that, you know, we were in for a really, really big season. So I would say on a general standpoint of those key things that I outlined there, that Vinci Mas was a massive success. Like I think all the elements came together to really deliver a great product.
Most of the mass bands started out on a rough patching. Some had homes, some didn't. And like anything else, last minute you have to be fighting to get a home. Some was given notice to leave where they are, and then we had a negotiation for a place. So you can see it's a rough start, and some say thank God based on where they are, because then there was a flux of persons coming. Some of the bands hit a stumbling block because everybody wants to party and not join with the traditional bands, so we see a fall off in numbers.
I know we started off very slowly, and that was a challenge for us at the beginning. But we tend to benchmark the success of Vinci Mas on a few things. And one of the things that I hold highest is the safety of Vinci Mas. And I think from the reports that we've had from the Commissioner of Police, by and large, Vinci Mas remained a festival free of any significant events.
And the CDC chairman said making an investment in the youths is good for the future of Vincy Mas.
And so we saw, as you pointed out, the youngster who won the junior Calypso Monarch, so he's still in school, competing against his sister, who is a multi-time junior monarch also, going up against his father, right? And so again, that speaks very well to the continuity of the art form. JR, who won the Raga Soca, again is a youngster who's in the music industry, but it's his first time making the finals. The whole Just Bus phenomenon, I want to call it a Just Bus phenomenon. It's a lot of young people who have that creative talent, and we need to hone it, we need to recognize it, we need to support it. And let us continue to support the youngsters, because I'm one who doesn't think that fireman needs to retire for somebody else to win, because there are people who can come and one day beat fireman. And if you want to be the best, you step up your game and you beat the best, right? So I'm not one who thinks that he should retire, but it's good to see the young people knocking at the door, putting pressure on him, and that augurs well for the Vincy Mas product.
Noting the exposure provided by social media influencers for Vincy Mas 2023, Adams said it is important to have a national festival worthy of great reviews to entice people to come and participate.
You can bring in influencers, and you as a nation don't give them that experience, and then at the end of it, they leave basically flat. Even people who were not brought in as influencers, I think most people would have seen the viral video that went out to this young lady.
She's a part of the Travelers.
Oh, she's a part of the Travelers, okay. But what happens is, when they come, and they come to Vincy Mas, and because we sell Vincy Mas on three pillars, largely. We sell it on the safety, we sell it on the energy, and we sell it on the intimacy. And I think one of the things that you find most of the people reporting on is that after a day or two, they felt at home. They felt very comfortable with the energy and the culture of the Vincentian people. And you know, that warmth that we have, we often brag that we're the most friendly people in the entire region, perhaps in the world. But that warmth that we have, and that energy that we bring out when we're expressing ourselves in Vincy Mas, those are what you have to sell the influencers on. So when they get that energy, they can speak about it with that energy, right? So while it is important to bring them in, it's also very, very much more important to ensure that we as Vincentians all work together, so that when they're here, they have something positive to say, and they have a positive energy, and they want to come back, and they want to bring additional friends when they're coming.
5 Vincentian students last Friday graduated as medical doctors in Cuba. They are Dr. Onion Woodley, Dr. Zani Williams, Dr. Chantal Nanton, Dr. Chelsea Ford, and Dr. Akida Springer. Dr. Springer and Dr. Nanton graduated with Tola de Order honors, while Dr. Woodley was named the most integrated students in this year's graduating class, as well as the best all-round student. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it is particularly proud of the students and grateful to the Republic of Cuba for its continuous collaboration in boosting SVG's health sector and Vincentian residents' Spanish-speaking ability.